Floor is open. As your humble guest, questions are open. Anyone has a question on the topic, off the topic, brothers, sisters, on the topic, off the topic.
Bro, I got a
Now
question.
it is the topic.
I got a question. Here you go first. Go ahead.
If the sisters have questions, if the brothers have questions, on the topic, off the topic, side said what? Doors are, the gates, not the doors, the gates are, follow.
So, brother, you said the correct way of making salat, right? So the correct way of making salat, you said majority of the Muslims, or that you see, we don't make the salat correctly the way we perform the sujood and everything, right? Would you mind showing us how to do it correctly? So when I do make my salat, so I could kind of not copy, but kind of do it the correct way.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wasalam, rasulullah. The question says, with regards to making salah correctly, making sujood, making ruku', making sajda, recitation, etc. correctly, most of the Muslims don't make the salah correctly. Could you please show us the way we can make sure that we're doing it correctly? Very important question, jazakallahu khairan. First and foremost, we never said in the lecture those specific words. But I've seen 9 out of 10 Muslims praying incorrectly. Many, perhaps most, but we can all agree, many, without a doubt. There's no doubt about that. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, the Muslims who do make the salah correctly, because this is a lecture for us all. Those who are praying incorrectly, the first step is to learn how to pray correctly, according to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And those who do make that salah correctly, their goal is to learn how to do what? Perfect their salah. Take it to the next level. As far as the actual physical actions of the salah, we have done many classes on this. Many lectures, and not just lectures sitting down with a book and a microphone, but actual physical what? Tutorials in which we've done the actions. So, for lack of time, I don't mind showing you, but for lack of time, and avoid any technicalities or confusion, I would advise you to go back to the playlists and the videos that we have on hadithdisciple.com, in which we have done classes, tutorials on wudu, we've done tutorials on salah, the Prophet's prayer, how to stand, how to bow, actual physical videos. That would be my advice. If you want me to briefly do it here in front of you, that's fine. For everybody's benefit, we say the general concept of salah, the general concept is very, very simple. Very simple. In most cases, when you find all types of difference of opinion, khilaf, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, I'm Maliki, I'm from North Africa, you're from India, so on and so on. In most cases, 9 out of 10, not 10 out of 10, because there are some actual core issues in which is khilaf, is difference of opinion, and opinions are wrong. But in most cases, these are things which are extra. Trimmings, garnish on the plate. An actual main course, the meat and the potatoes, or if you're vegan or vegetarian, your whatever you're eating in potatoes is going to be the same. Everybody understand it's going to be what? It's going to be the same. And in the salah, we have different concepts. First and foremost, we have that which is called shurut al-salah, conditions and prerequisites of the prayer. In English, when we say a prerequisite, we automatically know that the word pre proves that it's what? Before. So there are things that every Muslim must do before he makes that takbir or she says Allahu Akbar. And the things that you do before, you must keep them. They can't go away. They must stay with you from the takbir to the tasneem. Everybody understand this? In brief, facing the qibla obviously, having niyyah, praying on time, covering the awrah, having wudu, etc. We don't have the time to get into those details. Those are prerequisites. And there are many of us, it seems like an easy, simple thing. Not all, alhamdulillah. I may think that this is the proper way and it's wrong. Did the Prophet wipe over his neck when he made wudu? Would the Prophet ﷺ sit down at the wudu station and take his socks off? Many normal everyday practices that are east and west. When we talk about us in the Nabi al-Kareem, alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody understand this? And then in the salah, we have that which is called arkan al-salah, meaning columns of the prayer, pillars of the prayer. Once again, in the English language, the word pillar or column proves that that thing is inside or outside? Inside. And it's a staple part of it. It's supporting something. And if that column falls, either the building will collapse or at least become what? Extremely shaky. Everybody understand this? So there are mandatory things that you have to do in the salah, not before the salah. And if you don't, your salah is going to crack and crumble. And then we have things in the salah which are recommended. Things that you don't have to do. It's not mandatory, but it's necessary. You should do it to get closer to Allah, to get more good deeds, and to have more submissiveness, more khushu in your salah. But you don't have to what? You don't have to. We're on the road, we're traveling, we don't have a lot of time. You have to make the salah and go. The airplane is leaving, got to board the plane. This is where the benefit of this knowledge comes in. You're at home, you're in a comfortable masjid, the carpet. There's no reason for you not to do the recommended acts for the salah. And it's unnecessary for a Muslim to say, oh, that's just recommended. It's just recommended. It's just sunnah. No Muslim should ever say this. Unless there isn't enough time to do it in the proper way. Everybody understand this? We're stuck on the side of the road. It's freezing cold. We say it is not mandatory for us to recite this long surah in the salah. We'll just stick with this surah. Everybody understand this? And then there are things in the salah which are disliked. Things that don't nullify the prayer, but it takes away from your prayer. And then there are things which clearly nullify your salah. If you say them, if you do them, your prayer is no longer good. And this happens oftentimes in the masjid. Many of the ulama, they say, covering the awrah is a condition of the salah. Covering one's awrah, one's shameful area. That's the true meaning of awrah. Awrah doesn't just mean private part, but shameful parts. Something that you don't want to expose to anybody. So, those ulama who say that that's a condition of the salah, satrul awrah, you have to cover yourself. And then they say that a man's awrah from, or that which is between the navel to the top of the knees. I didn't say above the navel, but from between the bottom of the navel to the knees. So a man, he makes salah, he bends over, he makes ruku', and you see a part of his shame. Or just leave it vague. You can see his shame. And his shame falls beneath where his navel is. That will make his prayer what? Everybody understand the point? Everybody understand the point? There are many other examples like this. A woman, she comes to the masjid. She doesn't have on the proper hijab. What's considered her awrah in the salah is uncovered, or because it's loosely tied or loosely fashioned, which it shouldn't be. In the masjid, it blows the fan or whatever. Her awrah in the salah is now exposed. So it's dangerous. And then the arkan of the salah, reciting the Fatiha, making ruku', so on and so on and so on and so forth. Everybody understand this? So once again, before we do any physical demonstrations, any moves, before I move for you, we say what? Prerequisites of the salah. Things that you have to do before the salah, and they must continue in the salah. Everybody understand this? Then we have things that are just a part of the salah. Whether you forget about them or not, intentionally your salah is no good. Then we have recommended acts of prayer. We have disliked acts, and then we have things which break the salah. Everybody understand this? So to keep things simple, the first thing is the structure of the salah, which most Muslims know, alhamdulillah. I'm facing the qibla, there's a structure. And that structure is standing. Do I have to raise my hands? When I raise them, my palms face the qibla, or can I do this? Can I do that? Yes. Al-Muhim is that I stand. When I stand, it's something that I have to say. What is that I say? Subhanallah wa bihamdika, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khatayaka. What? Do I have to say that or not? Everybody understand this? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Min hamzihi. Do I have to say that, or can I just say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen? And then after I say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, do I have to recite another surah? Watiniya, Zaytun, Qul Wallahu Ahad, or not? Then after that comes something else. Ruku'. Many people, they make a ruku' and they do this. They bow down like this. Yeah, my head and my back is pointing what? It's pointing where? Down. It's wrong. Some people pray in their hands like this. It's wrong. Some people, they do what? They bend their elbows Bending the elbows causes my back to do what?
Leaps, arch,
Bend. Straightening and locking elbows causes it to do?
leg straight.
Straight. Everybody understand this? Some Muslims, now you come out the salah, it's something that you have to say when you're doing that. We're not going to get into that right now. We're still with the structure. The blueprint, the pegs. You come out of the salah, whether you raise your hands or not. How do you come out of the salah? And how do you make ruku as well? Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu Hamida. Many Muslims, they do that. They go into position and they jump right back out of a position. Did the Prophet do that? What did the Prophet tell the man who prayed badly? He told him, Hatta tatma'inna. He says, until you're serene and tranquil, until you're still. But Fulan Madhab says, Muhammad's statement said to do what? Be still. The statement of my man, my country, is what? Everybody understand this? Two different things now. The hadith doesn't get clearer than that. Hatta tatma'inna. He says, until you have tuma'nina, tranquility. That's what the Prophet said. I don't think there's a word that's what clearer than that. Sit down until you cool off. You get back up, you're still sweating. The instructions are extremely clear. Cool off. Everybody understand this? The Prophet said, being tranquil in the prayer. So I say, Allahu Akbar. People, they pray like this. Many people. And that's wrong. And it may nullify your salah. It may break your salah. Everybody understand this? It was the man who prayed badly. The Prophet told him to be what? Still. Hatta tatma'inna. So a person, now I'm not going to raise my hands or do anything like this. Allahu Akbar. Recite the Fatiha. Allahu Akbar. I go down. When I'm in ruku', how long do I have to stay? What's important is that you stay there and there's at least a couple seconds. You wait before you pop right back up. Everybody understand this? Now let's get to sujood. Do I go down on my knees first like this? Do I go down on my hands first like this? Right now, it's not a real super big deal. What's important is that you go down. How do you make sujood? I make sujood like this, like a ball. That's wrong. That's bad. Everybody understand this? My feet like this, spread out like that, closed. Everybody understand this? And then the next out of sujood comes this. That's wrong. Ruku', sujood, sajda, every position it has to be what? Tranquility. Every position has to be what? Tranquility. So I'm making sujood, whatever I'm saying in it, we're not going to get into it right now, still with the position. I'm making sujood now. I have to what? Sit still. Allahu Akbar. Arms are up naturally. Arms, let them what? Relax for a second. What are you saying? What afkar? Not mentioning them right now. We're just dealing with what? Structure. You have to sit still for a couple of seconds. And if you don't sit still for a couple of seconds, according to Muhammad, something is really wrong with your prayer. That hadith in which the Prophet said, be still, is the same hadith in which he told the man that he
Didn't pray.
The close mention, madhab, fulan. There's all footnotes. There's all what? It's very important. There's a footnotes. Why did this Imam say that? That's not important. It's not important. But we have a clear statement of the Prophet ﷺ. Pay close attention. Everybody understand this? You sit down. Do my feet have to be like this? Do my feet have to be like this? Can I sit like this? Can I sit like that? Can I sit like this? That's not necessarily too important right now. There's a proper way of sitting. What's important is that I do actually what? Actually sit. And that I don't just pop right back up. But I sit for a couple of seconds. Everybody understand this? I sit down and then you stand back up to the next position. So that's the general structure. Abu Hanifa, Malik, Ahmed, Shafi, Ibn Hazm, Dawood ibn Ali al-Zahiri, the ulama in general, they're going to agree on this, on the skeleton. But there's certain pieces and decorative things in which they differ on. Hands go on top of the navel, beneath the navel, on the chest, between the chest and the navel. Everybody understand this? If you're not making ruku' properly, if you're making ruku' like this, like some Muslims do, or your shame is exposed, like some Muslims do, you don't have time to get into where my hands go. Because your skeleton is already what? Messed up. You're getting plastic surgery on your skin, which you have a broken arm. The arm is broke. What is important that my skin? I have a scar on my skin, and I have a fractured arm. Everybody understand this? The bone has to be aligned, put back in place. Then you worry about everything else. So the most important concept of the salah is the skeleton. And as I said, that's generally easy. That's what? That's generally easy. But those things that we did mention are widespread. Of moving up and down, praying like this. See people doing that before? And also a person's odor being exposed. A woman, a sister, she comes to the masjid and her hair is out, her neck is out, her arms are out. Something is seriously wrong with that person's salah, with that woman's salah. Let alone the fact that a woman should not leave her house in that manner anyway, according to Allah and His Rasul. But at least in the salah, everybody understand this? Another concept. It's very important. It's not picking on the sisters or the brothers, but it's my job to say this. With regards to women that don't wear hijab, which is not right. Allah, His Rasul, commanded you to wear hijab. You don't wear hijab for your husband, not for your father, not for your culture, not because you're ugly or this and that. You wear hijab for Allah and His Rasul. That's the essence of Islam. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That's Islam. Whether I'm in Saudi Arabia or I'm in New York City, I wear hijab because Allah sees me. However, from the harms of not wearing hijab, it causes you not to make salah. Because what's the likeliness of a woman who leaves her home, she doesn't have a proper hijab, she has no makeup, she has no lipstick, she has no perfume, she has no high heel shoes, this and that. When the salah comes in, what is she going to do? Is she going to go in her office drawer as a doctor or her car and pull out a hijab, pull out a khimar, wrap herself up and pray? Is that likely or unlikely? Which one?
Unlikely.
Highly unlikely. So the concept is, one bad thing leads to a bigger bad thing. Everybody understand this? And the same applies to young men. Abdu. Basketball. You have basketball shorts that are short. You're playing basketball. You're doing this and that. When it's time for salah, what's the likeness? Crossover. This, that, spin, layup. What's the likeness of that? I'm going to do what? Put the ball down. I just shot a three-pointer in your face and just say what? Likely or unlikely, Abdu? Everybody understand this? So things that lead up to the salah are very important. Everybody doing this? So those are the basic positions of the salah. As far as the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the most complete way of prayer is first make sure that you face the qibla, that you pray in the proper time. I didn't say early, but the proper time. Because there's some prayers which it's best to delay. There's some prayers in which it's best not to pray as soon as it comes in, which we can't get into right now. We don't have enough time. So it's the proper time to pray. And my attire. Is my head older? Not necessarily. It's permissible to pray without your head covered. Madhab fulan, Imam. The Prophet ﷺ told the muhrim not to do what?
Cover his head.
Cover his head. The Prophet told the pilgrim not to do what?
Cover his head.
Cover the head. When you make hajj, you make salah or not? So if it's mandatory to cover the head, how can you make hajj and make salah? So that proves that statement, regardless of who said it, we're not getting to that. Why? That proves that statement is scientifically what?
Incorrect.
Incorrect, without a doubt. The Prophet told the muhrim, the pilgrim, not to do what? Not cover their head. Do not wear a hood. Do not wear burqas. Do not wear an imam, a turban. So the muhrim cannot cover his what? His what? What the muhrim can't do?
Cover his head.
He can't cover his head. What did the Prophet do when he made hajj? Did he pray or not? He prayed. So this proves that covering the head in the salah is not for a man. So therefore, but it's recommended. Let me cover my head. I have on pants. There's corduroys here. Should they be tight? Or just even wearing corduroys. It's permissible to wear these pants, but I should put on a qamis. I should put on an izar. I should wear a thobe. I should cover myself in a better manner. Not necessarily mandatory, as long as it isn't tight and see-through. But it's what? Best. That's the sunnah. That when you pray in the what? The best manner. Abdul, come. Yo. Come on. Quickly. So, you watch basketball or not?
I watch the finals.
You watch basketball or not?
I watched the finals.
Yes or no? Okay, who won the finals?
Cavs.
The Cavs. What does that mean, Cavs? Are Cavs baby cows?
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cleveland Cavaliers, okay. Who's the main star in Cleveland Cavaliers?
LeBron James.
Okay, great. So, this is a great basketball player, right? supposedly the best ever, this so is better than Michael Jordan, etc. How do you think LeBron James plays basketball? Now, LeBron James, and not a person third string on the bench, someone that was cut, someone that plays, no, NBA, the Cavs, not Cleveland, the Cavs. LeBron James. How do you think he plays basketball? Does he just drive in his car, get to the arena, and jump into the game, shoot? Yes or no? He doesn't do that, right? What does he do? How many hours does he come before the game? 30 minutes, 5 minutes? Does he come late to the game? Pay close attention. Does he come late to the game or not? How many hours? At least 2, 4 hours before. What does he do? What is he wearing? Shorts? Is he sweating it? He has on a certain type of what? Dress. A certain type of dress. I can play basketball without this. I don't need this dress. But he puts on a what? A certain type of dress. There's a ritual that he has. He has on his wireless headphones, his powerless Beats. Powerless Beats headphones. They cost $200, if not more. Right? Shake. Okay, tight. Right or wrong? He's the one who sponsored, he's on that thing. What music does to me, this is read the box. He's listening to his music, whatever type of music it is. He's dribbling, he's washing, he's sitting back, he may get a massage, he may do so many things that lead him up to the what? To the what? To the game. When it's time for the game, what do? Do they go on the court, or is there not an announcement? Do the players come out? They have the lights, national anthem, etc. There's an entire what? Ritual. After the game, what happens? You go home and that's it? You cut off the TV, what do you do after the game?
They announce.
For one interview, they analyze, hello, how was the game, Abdul? What made you do so good? And the person's, well, you know, we tried something, they do an interview. It's a whole entire what? Ritual. Do they do this with every player or just the main players, the elite players? In other words, the people, they get so much out of the game because they just don't play basketball, but it's a what? Pre and post. That's the way of making salah. How you dress, where you pray. Do you pray on time or do you barely get in the last 10 minutes of salah? No, that's not how who plays. LeBron James. LeBron James, he's what? Ahead. He's before the game, in the game, and after the game. So how can I get to a certain level? How can I pray like the prophet and I barely get to the masjid? I come to the masjid late on the second rak'ah. My pants are tight. Allahu Akbar. The imam slams out the salah. I run out the door. Everybody understand it? We can agree on this. Make sense, Abdul? You tired of standing? Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. So that's the sunnah way of prayer. Starts off how you dress, how you think, your wudu, and then you face the qibla. Palms should face the qibla. Don't do this. Is it mandatory to do this? Not talking about what's mandatory. The palms should face the qibla. Hands should be clenched together. Nor should the fingers be spread out like this. Normal. Raise the hands to the tips of the ears, or at least the shoulders, or that which is between them two. Allahu Akbar. Not Allahu Akbar. Or some Muslims, they do this. Or some people, they do this. Allahu Akbar. Many Muslims, they do this. That's not how Muhammad ﷺ did it. Simple, easy, natural movement. Allahu Akbar. If you wish to put your hands on your chest, that's fine. You wish to put them beneath the chest, that's fine. If you put them on top of your navel, that's also fine. If you put them beneath your navel, that's fine. But it's not most preferable. It's not most preferable. We're going to get into no fake arguments or debates in here. Okay? Then, where do you put your hands? Do you do this? Simple, easy ways. Then you start off by saying something. You make a supplication. Then after that supplication, you seek Allah's refuge. Then after that, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, silently, not aloud. Then you recite the Fatiha with good tajweed. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Not Alhamdulillah, no. Slow, simple, easy. Then you recite a surah afterwards. And there's specific surahs that the Prophet used to recite in specific salats, which you have to learn. Then you want to go into the next movement, you just don't drop and jump. Wait, raise your hands once again. Muhammad, raise his hands. Imam Fulan, this one, I'm not going to be asked about him in my grave. The angel's not going to come to me and says, what is your view on Imam Fulan? No matter how great of an Imam he was, those angels are not going to what? They're not asking me about him. They're asking me about who?
You.
Muhammad. Muhammad raised his hands. The sunnah, the proper way, is to raise the hands again. Allahu Akbar. And you bow down to ruku'. Back not low, back not high, head not up, head not low, straight. Elbows should be locked. Focusing on the salah. And there's certain things that you should say. Subhana Rabbil Azim, at least 3 times, preferable. And then after, there's another supplication to make. You come out of ruku' slowly. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Raise the hands once again. Muhammad raised his hands. The Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ raised their hands. Imam Fulan, this one, that one. I'm not responsible for what they did and what they said. But I have clear dalil that Muhammad what? He raised his hands again. That's the sunnah. Everyone understand this? Not this madhab, Muhammad's way. He raised his hands again. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Allahumma rabbana wa lakal hamd, rabbana lakal hamd. Allahumma. Many different supplications to make. But those supplications have to be from the authentic sunnah. Not from a collage of du'as. Not from a baseless book. But authentic sunnah. Everybody understand this? You make the du'a, you stay here for a second. The sunnah of the Prophet said when he would come out of ruku', one companion said he was staying for such a long time, we would say that he forgot. Not like many imams. Sami Allahu liman hamida, and you go right back. No, that's wrong. Stay there for some time. Then you go down to the sujood. Whether you go upon your knees like this, whether you go upon your hands, what is important? Whether it's the hands or the knees, don't do as many Muslims. It's plop down. On the hands or the knees. It's to be a slow, gentle, gracious movement. Allahu Akbar. Hands or the knees, both optional, what we believe. Then you go into the sujood. The hands are not to be like this. It should be space. As long as you have enough space in the row. If you're praying by yourself, it's a different story. Feet, let's say, put the feet together. Let's say that for now. And you make your supplication. Subhana Rabbil Ala. Subhana Rabbil Ala at least 3 times. And then other supplications to make. In the sujood, you can ask Allah for whatever you want to ask Allah for. Dunya or deen. But it should be in Arabic. In the fard prayer, it should be in Arabic. Then you come out of the sujood slowly and gracefully into sajda. With your feet. There's different ways of doing it. Sit. And there's supplications that you can make in the sajda. Asking Allah for forgiveness. Rabbi ghfirli, Rabbi ghfirli, Rabbi ghfirli, oh Allah forgive me. No specific dua after that. You sit there for some time. Then you go back into the sujood. And then you go up again. How do you come up? The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is that it says whenever the Prophet stood back up, he would do it on his hands. On his hands. Allahu Akbar. Don't raise the hands again. Go back to how you held them before, how you folded them before. Recite the Fatiha again, another surah to the end of your salah. As far as the tashahhud, then the tashahhud, at-tahiyyatu lillah, tayyibat, okay? The finger should not be moved like this. Don't move the finger. The finger should be kept straight. Whether you move it when you make a specific dua and then lower it, but we believe that the finger should what? Shouldn't be done. You shouldn't do this. Shouldn't move the finger. If you keep it still, it's not a part of the mandatory salah. But he asks now for the perfect. Everybody understand this? Well-rounded. You make it tashahhud. After you make it tashahhud, send prayers upon the Prophet. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Authentic dua, an authentic supplication. Then after that, you seek Allah's refuge from 4 things. What are those 4 things? What are those 4 things that we make every salah? We should know this. We should be saying this on our salah. Every single salah.
عذاب القبر.
Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min.
عذاب القبر.
From the punishment of the grave.
رجاء.
What's the specific supplication of the Prophet? What did he used to say? Specifically. What did he tell us to say? We have to learn this. Knowledge and salah, knowledge and spirituality go like what? Brown on rice. There is no spirituality without knowledge. Everybody understand this? Spirituality goes what? With ilm. Being pious, having zuhd, dhikr of Allah can be based off of what is based off of ilm. And ilm only comes from hard work. So you seek refuge in Allah from those 4 things, then you make another supplication. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. And then after that, the Prophet ﷺ, or even before that, he says, ثُمَّ لِيَتَخَيَّرْ مِنَ الدُّعَاء أَعْجَبَهُ إِلَيْهِ. Then make any dua that you want to make. Rather, after you send prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ, make any dua that you want to make. For success, Allah find me a wife. Allah give me a wife. Allah allow me to be successful. Anything of good of this life and hereafter, you ask Allah for. Then you salam out. And the sunnah, the basic necessity of salamming out will just be keeping your hand straight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That'll be it. Recommended, preferable way, assalamu alaikum facing first. Don't turn your head first. Make salam facing the qibla. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And then, as we said about the basketball game, Abdul, there's post-game. The game is another half an hour, 45 minutes, hour of footage, highlights. They break down the game. And the same applies to salat. Don't get up and run out to that shit. Because if you do, that's not helping you to fight your nafs and to get that khushu'. Sit and you do what the Prophet did. Most Muslims today, 9 out of 10, what's the first thing they do when they salam out to prayer? Raise their hands and make dua. Is it haram? Is it a bid'ah? We don't have to go that far and say that. But we know for sure it is not the sunnah. It is in contrast to the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ told you to make dua when? In tashahhud. So look at the harm of not following the sunnah, following the culture, following some sheikh and some imam. You have solid gold, you say, no, give me that piece of brass. I'll take brass. Brass is good. Copper is good, silver is good, but it isn't what? Solid gold, not just gold, solid gold. Gold plate, this is solid gold. Flash gold, rolled gold. No, solid gold. The Prophet said, make dua when? In the tashahhud. I guarantee you, if you sat down and talked to most Muslims, they don't make the dua in the tashahhud. When they salam out, they do what? Make the dua. Sad. Allah gave them solid gold and they want. Makes no sense or does? Makes no sense. So that's the best place to pray is your tashahhud. When the Prophet would salam out, Ibn Abbas would say, we knew that the prayer was over during the time of the Prophet because Ibn Abbas was a young man. When the Prophet died, Ibn Abbas was barely in puberty. So the years that he prayed, Ibn Abbas was a young lad. He wasn't always necessarily in the rows, in the rank. He may have been washing, he may have been in the house. On him, he says, we knew that the Prophet and the Sahaba were done the salah, we would hear the takbir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, at least 3 times. How many Muslims do this? The Prophet used to say something there. Ibn Abbas says that's how we knew that the salat was over. Not by seeing their hands in the air. Because people are going to come and they're going to argue. Are you saying it's haram, brother, to make dua and raise your hands? Is that a bid'ah? We don't have to get into no sticky arguments with you. But we know for sure that that isn't the what? That's not the way of Muhammad. Muhammad would make supplications. And he instructed us to say other supplications. Allahumma anta salam, make salam, tabaraka, ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, make the tasbih, make the tahleed, make tahmeed with your hand. Is it haram to use the beads? Is it bid'ah to use the beads side? We didn't even what? I didn't get into those arguments. Because there are many Muslims who want fitna. Anything that they don't understand, it's uncustomary, they want fitna. I'm not arguing with you. I didn't say anything's bid'ah. I came with one message. That's the sunnah. And the delay, the proof that's the sunnah, those books on the wall. That's the book right there, right behind you. Any book, any book. Any book out of the green book, the Fath al-Bari. Quick. It says here, in this book, any random place. It says, Bab laysa ala al-Muslim fi farasihi sadaqah. Imam al-Bukhari says, there's no sadaqah due upon a Muslim's personal horse. If you have a personal horse, 10, 20, 50, 100 horses, there's no what? There's no sadaqah. How can you have 50 horses and not pay sadaqah? That's a lot of money. Horses are extremely expensive. You have to pay sadaqah. You're a wealthy man. You're poor Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ said what? No sadaqah upon the Muslim with regards to his horse. I'm bringing you this, Imam al-Bukhari's chain of narration. Between him and the Prophet ﷺ, he says Adam, Shu'bah, Abdullah, Sulaiman ibn Yasar, Iraq ibn Malik, and Hurairah. 5 people. Qala Rasulullah. You come and you tell me a Muslim has to pay sadaqah on his horses. Why? Give me your book. Where is your proof? What are you quoting? Are dhikr beats haram? I'm not getting to that. I'm not coming here to fight you over that. But I'm telling you from this source that the Prophet ﷺ made tasbih with his hand. We didn't even say right hand, we said hand. Preferably right hand, but that's another issue. Everybody understand this? So I'm not here to argue about this being a bid'ah, raising this, but we're here to prove that what? We have the authority that's going right back to the Prophet that what? Is how he did it. And if you're not doing it upon Muhammad's way, whose way are you doing it upon? Whether it's haram or, it's a very important concept here, you understand this? Whether it's haram or not. Everybody understand this? You understand, Abdul? This is the proper way of shooting a free throw. I shoot it like this. It goes in, but it is the what? That's not the what? That's not the way of the greats. Everybody understand this? Then you make your tasbih, and then you recite some Quran, Ayatul Kursi, surahs that the Prophet used to say, or told the people to say. And then if you wish to raise your hands and make your personal dua, that's fine. And then the Prophet will make the sunnah prayers. And it's always best to make those prayers in your home. It's permissible to do it in the masjid, but it's best in your home. The Prophet, why is it best in your home? Imam Fulan, Ahmed, Malik, Shafi'i? No. Because Muhammad ﷺ said, فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ صَلَاةِ الْمَرْءِ فِي بَيْتِهِ إِلَى الْمَكْتُوبَةِ. He said the best place for a man to pray is in his home, except for that which is maktuba. When you pray in your house, you make your house have nur, have light. Shayateen leave. He's not a graveyard. Your wife, she may have forgotten about the salah. Not saying that a woman's going to forget about salah. We're just making an example here. Men can forget about salah and a woman can. This is an example. Maybe she forgot. Maybe something happened with the baby. Maybe. She comes and she see you making your sunnah prayers you came from the masjid. What is that going to instantly do? It's going to remind her, oh, I got to make salah. Your little small children that run up to your legs and pull, Abby. You're making what? Salah. What type of psychological effects is going to have on your small kids? We saw our Abby making salah from a young age. We always saw Abby making salah. Do you think they're going to grow up and do drugs, smoke, and this and that, get tattoos, Abdul? Abdul's tired. They're not going to do that. In most cases, because they have that tarbiyah from a young age. Abby was righteous. Abby didn't just tell us, but he also led by example. So there are many benefits of making the nafil prayer where? In the salah. It doesn't mean it's haram in the masjid. You go back to work, right in the masjid. You're going to forget, wife is going to jump on you, your kids are going to jump on you, no problem. But it's best to do it in the house. And most Muslims today, when they salam out the prayer, what's the first thing they do? They make the extra prayers. They go against the sunnah and they prevent the people from leaving the masjid when they have to go. All good is in the way of Muhammad. Every piece of light is in the way of Muhammad. And all darkness is in something other than his way. If it's a technical issue, scholars differ, proofs and evidence is false, it's a different story. You avoid all those things. You take that which is clear, and that which is simple, and that which is solid. And the best basketball player, or football player, or boxer, without a doubt, the greatest are those who are the most what? Most what? Abdul. Zayn. Most what? What are they? The best athletes are the best what? LeBron James is the best what? No, that's not what I'm going to say. Stephen Curry is the best what? Michael Jordan is the best what? What made him so great? It's not even hard work, it's something else. They were the most fundamentally sound. Then after the sound fundamentals come the other dip and the dazzle and the spin and this and that. But they don't miss free throws. They don't miss layups. They don't make silly, foolish mistakes in the fourth quarter. They are the most fundamentally what? Sound. Muhammad Ali. People say he was one of the greatest boxers. One of the greatest. What was his best punch? Anybody knows anything about boxing? What's Muhammad's best punch? Hook, uppercut, jab. That's the most basic punch. He had fundamentally mastered it. Then he built upon it with speed and flipping it, throwing it in your face. And the same applies to Islam. Most of us are not fundamentally sound, and we talk about Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmed, Fulan. This is Sahih Bukhari. How many times have you read it? How many times have you studied it? But the hadith are clear and authentic. This is what Muhammad said about sadaqah. If you're not fundamentally sound, everything else is going to be what? Shaky. If you don't believe this, then read about those athletes and how many free throws he was shooting a day. Not three-pointers, free throws. How many times he was standing on the court, bounce off the backboard, until it becomes instinctive, second nature. And the same applies to your deen. So you have to be fundamentally sound. You have to learn the basics. And then the technical issues, there's difference of opinion. You have that whole one. Everybody doing this? Sorry for taking up your time. I only wanted to fulfill the request.
Thank you, Abed.
Please go back to those videos. We've done many other videos. Hadith, hadithdisciple.com. It'll take you to the YouTube channel. We've done many tutorials on these things. And hopefully Allah will give us the permission to do more. hadithdisciple.com. Hadith Disciple. Type that in, Google it in, it'll take you there. You can watch the videos, the classes, there are a few articles, and more. And you can also send and forward personal questions that you may have. You can send and forward. We have a public service that Allah allows us to do, so I tell them to answer the people's questions. Question may be too shy, maybe too embarrassed, or whatever the case may be. Feel free to correspond.
Sure, sir.
Hold on.
One last question. Coming back to qualities. When in the second, after second sajda, some people sit and then they get up, or some just get up.
Clear. No problem. No problem. Question clear. The question is, he says, with regards to tranquility, after the second sajda, a person is going to go to the next rak'ah. He made the first sajda, he made the jalsa, he's in sajda. Now, everybody witness? He's subhanallah. What does he do? Does he do this? Allahu Akbar? Stand straight up? Or does he go like this? Allahu Akbar. And then get up. We say, Muhammad sallallahu he sat and he waited. The Prophet sat and the Prophet waited. Why? Because the Prophet was old, his knees were bad, he was a little heavy, this and that. The later years of his life, what's important is that the Prophet, he did it. And that is the time in which he told the companions to pray like you see me praying. And he did make an exception. Because some of them, they say that a person shouldn't do that. He should go from sajda straight to the next rak'ah. And they say that the Prophet only did that because he was a little slower. But we say the hadith that tells us to pray like him is that hadith. And if there was anything that needed to be excluded, he would have said, pray like you see me praying, except for A, B, C, and D. So that's the best thing to do. Is to sit and take that jilsa, which is called jilsatul istiraha. It's called the sitting of break, rest. Whether the Prophet did it for a specific reason or not, he said pray like him. So that's best. Is it mandatory? Not necessarily. Will it nullify your prayer if you don't do it? Not necessarily, but it's what? It's best. There you go. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. I have a question.
Okay.
Can you pray in the car? Can you pray in the car when the car is in motion, like you're traveling and you cannot stop and you have to pray? It's like.
Right. Question says, can a person pray whatever is your means of transportation? There are Muslims on submarines. Okay, it's not just a joke. I know Muslims used to be in the Navy. He was on a nuclear submarine for 1 month, submerged underwater. It's reality. Anything that's what? Moving. Submarine may be a bit different. We have a bit more space. But the general concept of something moving, you can't necessarily stand up, bow, or face the qibla, etc. We say it depends on the salah that you're making. If it's a fard prayer, that's one scenario. Sunnah prayer, that's what? Different scenario. It's a different scenario. As far as the fard, then it's mandatory that you stand up, that you face the qibla, if you have the ability to do so. If you have the ability to do so. If you're traveling and the flight is only for an hour, dhuhr is in, you have the option of praying on the plane, sitting down, not facing the qibla, which is not necessarily best, or when you land, make the dhuhr. Or dhuhr is going to be out, but when I land, it's going to be asr. And it's permissible for a traveling Muslim to combine dhuhr and asr. But now you're on a flight to Saudi Arabia, you're making Hajj Umrah, 13 hours. I'm going to miss the salah. And I'm not on Saudi Airlines. Saudi Airlines has a small musalla. I'm on Air Egypt or Royal Moroccan Air or Turkish Air or Lufthansa, whatever airline in which there's nowhere to stand up. Where else? What is that? Fly Emirati. Very good. Very good. Everybody understand this? What do? We say, do not delay the salah. Do not miss the salah. Pray the dhuhr, the maghrib, the isha, sitting down, not facing the qibla. Don't let the salah leave. As far as the recommended prayer, totally different scenario. The Prophet ﷺ, when he traveled, if he was on a camel, he would make takbir facing the qibla first. And then he would offer his witr, the salah at that time. The hadith says, haythu tawajjahat bihi, in any direction that the animal moved. So the fard is one thing. Or even another scenario is getting off and stopping. And also, very important advice for the brothers and sisters is time management. You have time. Salah is going to come in. It's a 30-minute drive. It's an hour drive. I'm going to be stuck in traffic, rush hour. You have to do what? Manage your time properly. Don't mismanage your time, and then you're stuck in a traffic jam. I don't have wudu, I'm not facing the qibla, and I can't stop and get out or even pray because I might have to move the car. Oftentimes comes from lack of proper management. Lack of proper what?
Management.
Proper management. So it all depends. Fard, one issue. If you can't stop and you want to miss the prayer, pray sitting down. And there are other scenarios, like it may be a little cold outside. Or we may be on the side of the roads, in the woods. What scratched that tree? One night we were traveling. I think it was in Jeddah.
Yeah.
We were leaving in Jeddah, Some Muslims are scared of, Bigfoot. I'm not getting out the car and making salat near the woods. Why? The tree scratched. I don't know what scratched that tree. Was it a bear? Was it something else? Okay, or a woman getting out the car, making ruku, making sujood. These are all different scenarios. The general concept is that it is mandatory to stand if you have the ability to stand. You're not sick or weak or injured. And it's mandatory to face the qibla. If you cannot face the qibla, if you cannot stand up, and the prayer is going to go out, the time is going to leave, pray what? On the train, on the plane, in the car. But be mindful of your time. And the fiqh fi deen, combining the salat, the permissibility of delaying the salat, 30, you have to have what? Proper understanding. Hopefully the answer is clear, inshallah.
Sister had a question before. Is women that's mincing allowed in the masjid?
Question says, women who are mincing, are they allowed in the masjid? We say, this issue in which the scholars of Islam have different views. They have different views. Some scholars in Islam say, no, she cannot come inside of the house of Allah. And other scholars, they say, yes, she can come in the house of Allah. No matter what direction you go, there's someone from the people of knowledge who's giving the fatwa saying right or left. It's for the layman. The student of knowledge doesn't think like this. Student of knowledge does what? He picks up the book, he reads, he studies, he uses his brain. The champion basketball player, he doesn't just blindly follow the coach. He knows it's a bad play. They're going to pick it off. They're going to end it. You have to call it audible. Even though the offensive coordinator said do this, no, you have to change it. The quarterback is the second coach on the field. Point guard is the what? Second coach on the court. Student knowledge. A basic layman person? No. So therefore, whether you go right, whether you go left, there is some alim, respected, who said you can or cannot enter the masjid. So you have to do what you feel is safest. What you feel is best, is closest. Am I clear on this? That's the simple way of answering the question. As far as what I believe, based on my humble studies, I would say that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ clearly prove that a woman is allowed to enter the masjid, sit in the masjid, stay in the masjid without restrictions. The Prophet ﷺ allowed the woman to come to the masjid. The woman used to live in the masjid. She had a tent in the masjid. The Prophet told Aisha, if Ali may al-hajj, he says, do what pilgrims do except for tawaf. And then this goes on. So if you ask me my personal opinion on the issue, I would say the mincing woman is allowed inside of the masjid. And the view that states that she cannot come to the masjid is not necessarily strong. It's not necessarily strong. So it's two different views. That's the opinion that I feel is best, is that it is permissible. There are ulama who say that it's what? It's haram. Do what you feel is safest. If someone asks me, once again, my personal opinion, I would say it is permissible. And those who say that it isn't permissible is not strongly supported. Either the hadith is weak or it's authentic, but it isn't frank to the point. Clear? And also, a woman has to look at the concept of the masjid. What's the purpose of the masjid? A woman can stay in the house and listen to the classes. She can have her sister's halakha in her house, but is it the same feel as the masjid? The same vibe as the masjid? Last year it was about the i'tikaf. And the question came about the women in the i'tikaf, right? It's the concept of the masjid, the sisters book club, the sisters halakha. So we have to be mindful of these things. So you have to be what? You have to be mindful of these things. If we don't have something that's clear and direct from Kitab and Sunnah, we can't tell Allah's slaves not to do something. Wallahu a'lam. That's the answer in what? In brief. It's a very long discussion, technical discussion of fiqh. That's my opinion, based off of my humble studies, what I've read and studied from those ulama of the past. Hopefully that's clear, inshallah.
Is the woman's salah the same as the man?
Question says, a woman's prayer, is it the same as a man? A couple of weeks ago, alhamdulillah, we did a lecture on this. Part of our, it's more than a couple weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago now, called the fiqh of fasting, in which I gave a lecture or a class on women's issues about fasting. And in that class we explained, among many other classes, that the Islamic Sharia, a woman is no different than a man is no different than a woman, unless or until proven otherwise. Unless we have a specific verse, a specific hadith, a woman and a man are what? Equal. In inheritance, salah, hajj, jihad, covering, kullu shay, everything, unless there's what? Something specific, not a general, but a what? Specific. And the Prophet says a woman cannot do this. A man must spend his money on a wife, the wife doesn't have to spend the money on a husband. If that wasn't the case, then there will be what? Everybody understand this? Hajj, salah, jihad, anything. So when a man prays, how did the Prophet pray? Did he have his arms up or did he ball himself up? He didn't ball himself up. Did the Prophet tell women to ball themselves up?
No.
So therefore a woman would be similar to a man. Everybody, this is a rule in the Sharia. Unless there's specific what? Evidence. A woman will be allowed to uncover their hair. Like a man can uncover his hair in public, but we have a what? A specific evidence. Everybody understand this? You tell your wife, you have to pay the bills too. I work. You sit back, you just enjoy the fruits of my labor. No, you have to help out too. Everybody understand this? That will be the ruling. But the sister, she said, well, actually.
Allah Akbar. Allah.
Everybody understand this? And if that wasn't the case for what she pointed to the book, there will be what? Spend and take care of. Everybody understand this? And it's any other issue of the religion. Men and women are the same in legislation until proven otherwise. Everybody understand this? This is a golden rule of Islam. So my culture is one thing. My culture is what? One thing. My opinion, my feeling, it doesn't feel right my wife going to the masjid. I don't want my wife in the masjid. I don't want people to see my wife looks good. My feelings are one thing. Everybody saying this? My culture is one thing. But the deen of Allah is what? What's your name? Hamza. Good job, Hamza. Barakallahu feek. And you? Kafkan. Barakallahu feek. Very nice name. Allah bless you all. Are there any other questions before we stop? Well done.
So, like when you're doing this related to what you're saying, perfecting the salah, so it's mandatory that you look at the place where you're doing the sajda, right?
Is it mandatory to look at the place of the sajda? We say it's mandatory not to look at the sky. That's what's mandatory. It's to avoid looking at the sky. Avoid raising your head. Regardless, whether you put your face and your gaze at the place of sajda, whether you close your eyes, or whether you look straight. What is important is that you don't what?
Don't look at the sky.
Don't look up.
Closing, I was just the
Closing the eyes was discussed in detail by Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. And he concluded that it's permissible.
Allah.
And if a person can't reach khushu', unless he closes the eyes, he says that he should close the eyes. But the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, many of those hadiths show us that the Prophet was looking at the salah. He saw, I looked at Jannah. I looked at the shaitan, looked. Everybody understand this? فَإِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ. He says, I see you from. What's the hadith say? The Prophet saw the conveyance from what?
Behind.
You know this hadith? Right here. No confusion. What's important is that the Prophet said his eyes, that was apparent they were open. But that doesn't necessarily mean it is haram to do it. So, which comes first? The sunnah of keeping the eyes open or getting the khushu'? If you can make khushu' looking down, it's fine. But there may be a place you're at, or you may be reciting the Quran in which you feel you need to do what?
Close your eyes.
So I don't feel like it's haram to close the eyes. Rather, as Ibn Qayyim said, it could be recommended sometimes, based off of achieving that khushu' in the salah. Clear?
Yeah, also at times we have too much going around, so
Oh yeah, too much going around, let alone different masjids in which the masjid is more decorative than something that's supposed to be decorative. That's another discussion. When the masjid has a million things, decorative writing, script, the carpet, this, that, it's so beautiful. That takes away from the khushu' as well. Because people, and if you don't believe this, I'll leave you with this. If you made Hajj some years back, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 15 years ago, and make Hajj Umrah now, what are everybody doing now?
no, it's ringing.
Huh.
It's ringing.
Smartphone pictures, wow. So the concept of beauty, decoration is so splendid. Everybody understand this? Wallahu alam. Any other questions before we stop? From the brothers and sisters?
And what age do you like start Salah?
Clear. This is my assistants, huh?
Allah.
Hamza and Kaf Khan, huh?
MashaAllah.
We say, at what age do we force our kids to pray? We say fasting? Fasting and praying. I knew I heard Salah. I did, man. I heard Salah the first time. Then she switched. We say is that you have to force them to pray with regards to Salah, prayer at 10. Prayer at 10. Fasting, puberty. 12, 11, 13, depending on the child. Early or late bloomer, whatever the case may be. Salah, you must make your child pray at 7 and 10. Which one? Hadith says, Murru abna'akum bis-salati muhum abna'u sab'in. Tell your children to pray when they're what?
7.
7. If they don't listen, then do what?
Respect.
Beat them. So, can I force you verbally or what?
Physically.
Get up, get up, get up. Everybody understand this? Now, let's try this again. Sit down, Kefkan, sit down. I say get up, and you say no. No, let's simulate it. Get up.
No.
Get up.
No.
Now to do what?
Be in.
Get up.
No.
So important now. Everybody pay close attention. Forcing the child to pray, 7 or 10?
7.
We didn't get it. Which one, Jamil? I tell my prayer, it says murru. It says command your children to do what? Pray at 7. Is command forcing?
No.
Everybody understand this? The cup has to be what?
Empty.
Has to be empty. Telling your child to pray is one thing. Physically disciplining them is what? That's considered, that would be quote unquote what? That would be forcing. It's a difference. I told you to get up, you said no. You have the option not to listen. Right or wrong. But if you're not stronger than me, not saying that you aren't, but if you're not stronger than me, I can now do what?
Force me.
Everybody got the point?
Yeah.
So, force at 7 and 10. We agree on this or not? Everybody make sense? It's a difference. It's a strong word between force and between what?
Command.
We need to do the simulation again or no?
Yeah, do Hamzawana.
Everybody got it clear or not? What's at the end of the day, whether 7 or 10, the parent's responsibility is to verbally command and tell the child to make salah at the age of 7. The hadith tells us to physically discipline the child at the age of 10. You understand this? As far as fasting, fasting is not mandatory. You don't have to tell your child to fast or physically discipline them until they are adults, Islamic adults. They may be 19, 20-year-olds that are still kids. But Islamic adults, in the eyes of Allah, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Sharia. Everybody understand this? Now, one more important thing. If you're forcing your child, how old are you, Kefkan?
I turned 11 like 7 days
If I'm forcing him, beating him, putting him on punishment at 11 years old to make salah, something's wrong. I should have been telling him to make salat. I come to the masjid, stand next to me, son. He should be mimicking my images, praying with his arms spread out, dancing, playing around in the salat. At the masjid, at young, tender age, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, he should come to the masjid with me. My young daughter should be doing what? Hijab. Before she's a grown woman, before she's growing up, before, she should be wearing hijab. That way, I don't have to force her anymore. She wants to wear hijab. Abby, when you go to Saudi, bring me back a nice abaya. Abby, bring me a purple abaya. Abby, everybody understand this? That's the hikmah of the Prophet. So if I'm lax and slack, she's 11, she's 12, she's 13, she's 14, inshallah, next year. Now, I like the feeling of having my hair out. I like the attention that I get. People make fun of me at school for wearing a khimar. People look at me funny when I dress like a Muslim. Now you're fighting, you're going against the current. But from a young age, Hamza was 2, 3, I instilled in him the virtue of dressing, of praying, of fasting, of reading. He says, no, I don't want to look like that. I want to like you, Abby. I want to dress like a Muslim. I want to be a Muslim. It's known. My name is Abdul. I'm Muslim. Don't think of anything else. I'm not afraid of it. So you can't start too late. Everybody understand this? So you have to teach your child to pray at a young age. You have to teach your child to fast at a young age. Give them half of a day. Son, if you can fast half the day, I'll buy you something sweet. Give you some candy. Buy you a cake. Teach them. Video game. Things like this. These guys are dangerous. Hopefully the answer clear, inshallah?
Standing his father. One last question. How does a pregnant woman pray?
How does a pregnant woman pray? We say it all depends on the woman and on the stage of pregnancy. There's some pregnant women that are tougher than men. No doubt. You ever go somewhere? I'll tell you a story, brief story. We were in Atlanta, Georgia. Down south. All right, Atlanta, Georgia. And there's a place in Atlanta, Georgia, if anyone's ever been there, called Stone Mountain. Never heard of it? Yeah. Okay, Stone Mountain. We were hosts of the brothers down there. You know how, sorry, Jeremy's from Alabama. This is my student, my pupil, Allah bless him. A lot of people from down south, they look down upon people from up north. Just like Northerners look down upon, even in other countries. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, is this not the case? The same thing, right or wrong. The Northerners are like this, Southerners like that, our complexion like this, our language like that. We were the original country, you saw it together, right? Is this not the case? We can agree on this. That's not the parts of Africa, Northern Sudan, Southern Sudan, Northern Korea, South Korea. This is the reality. So people in the South, they look down upon Northerners, and Northerners look down upon Southerners. Northerners say some people are slow. Just because a person talks slow, it means that his mind is slow. There's many people there. And oftentimes it's the exact opposite. Everybody understand this? One brother, he said from South Carolina. He says, when I came from the South and I went up to New York, I thought the people in New York were like, he said, then I discovered they only talk fast. He says the game is still slow. Everybody understand this? So anyway, so the people from down south, the Northerners, lazy, weak, spoiled, no family ties, so on and so forth. Live like rats in an apartment building. The poorest place down south automatically has a lawn, has a yard. You have land. Live in New York City, paying thousands and thousands of dollars every month, and you have a tiny, small space. So anyway, we're down south. So the brothers, our hosts, they thought, we were out of shape, we were weak, we were city slickers. So it says, you guys want to go to Stone Mountain? I said, sure, let's go. And the other brothers said, we went to Stone Mountain. We went on all the way to the top. One of the brothers from down south, he started paying like, dang, Mufti, I didn't think you were going to be able to make it up here. I was like, come on, let's go, shake. We give a class, bismillah. Guess what we saw on the top? A woman with a huge belly.
Allah.
Walking, strutting like it was nothing. Her belly was huge. 6, 7, 8 months, maybe 9 months. The moral of the story is what? There's some pregnant women that are stronger than men. Have more stamina, more energy than men. Or other women aren't pregnant. So if a woman has a baby, and she can stand, she can make ruku', she can make sujood, it's not hurting her, it's not harming her, it's not harming the baby, then she has to do what? Pray like a normal person. But if it's a bit tough, I can do it, but it's tough. It's not impossible, but it's a bit what? It's a bit tough. Then she should sit down. She should do what the Prophet instructed the people to do. The hadith that says, فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ It says pray standing. And if you can't, the proper meaning of the hadith is not if you can't. If you can't pray standing, except with difficulty, except with pain, then pray sitting down. Many Muslims today, they think that they can't pray sitting down unless they want to die, and that's wrong. I can't break my fast unless I'm what? I want to die. I'm thirsty, my mom. No, that's not what's meant by I can't. Difficulty. So pregnant women should pray according to our situation. Some pregnant women, they can't. Some pregnant women, she's walking stronger than the brother from down south. Everybody understand this? Clear? So, alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Alhamdulillah.